Hi, Dave here from Broston Men. I haven't done a video for a while, so I thought I'd kick off with a new one. Not a battle this time, but more a review of the latest offering from Reese Witt's Press from Two Fat Ladies, the 1813 campaign by Dave Brown. So for those of you who are familiar with the rule set, General d'Armée, it's Napoleonic wargaming at battalion level. It is a wonderful set of rules, really gives you a great feel for the period. Wonderful game, plays well. If you haven't played it, I would recommend it. It's probably, in my view, one of the better sets on the market at the moment. I've played quite a few. So we'll now get into the 1813 book. So here's the 1813 cover, Battles for Germany, 6 wargaming scenarios for General d'Armée by David Brown. So it covers off on 6 scenarios, and you can play it through as single scenarios or in a campaign. And throughout, if you play it in the campaign mode, certain options occur during the scenarios based on the winner and loser, which is quite appealing as well. And those scenarios I will just look into right now. So when we look inside, we have the 1813 campaign in Germany, where David just goes through and gives a bit of a summary of how, when, and why, and the outcomes. Then we talk about the scenarios. There are a few optional rules, particularly around maybe Allied cavalry superiority and the effect that the Cossacks could have if they actually get out of their barracks and want to play on the day. And then we have the 6 scenarios, which is the combat at Wiesenfels, Lutzen, Bautzen, Dresden, Mockern, and Lieberkowitz. And that's not the great cavalry battle. All well presented, and I will say particularly the map. And here's an example of the maps inside. I really love these. They are very appealing. It's probably nice to get my hands on this software to draw my own. And this is just one of the scenarios that I've just taken a snapshot out of. So it's actually quite detailed. You can actually see where the woods are, marshes. It's just great graphical content. So pretty pleased with how this has come up throughout the booklet. So first I thought I'd have a look at Wiesenfels, and for those that have actually had the scenarios and had a flick through the book so far, you'll note that what's on the screen here is not what's in the book. So I've done my own bit of editing here because whilst the book just sort of is fairly generic, it just lists how many infantry units are there for the Russians, whether it be Jaegers, Line, Hussars, Uhlans, Dragoons, Cossacks. I want a little more detail if I want to paint things up, and as we know, all of us wargamers are mini historians in their own right. So this is just me having a bit of a tinker with the order of battle, because I wanted to have a few names so when I label my units, particularly on the battlefield, I'm a bit happier with it. So I've had a bit of a play with it. So as you can see, there are names there. I've also had a bit of a tinker with the French, because, for instance, the 6 light in the 1st brigade here is actually the 6th provisional light, which was made up of the 6th and the 25th light infantry battalions. So this is just something that is my preference, and as you can probably see there, for instance, in Cheminou's brigade, I think it was just listed as the 21st line of 4 standard, whereas it actually is the 21st and the 24th provisional line, made up of the battalions that you can see on the screen. And of course, this is me. I could be wrong. I could be right. You never know. But this is based on what I'm going through in my own personal library and what I find in the power of the interwebs. So here we are. So that's Wiesenfels. Quite happy with that. I guess the interesting fact is there is Russian infantry here. And from what I can gather, it was mostly a skirmish between Sulam's division versus Russian cavalry, Hussars, Uhlans, Dragoons, and 3 to 4 regiments of Don Cossacks. Not a lot of Russian infantry present, but I suspect this is purely here for playability purposes. They may have been here or nearby. So look, not a bad little battle. Do look forward to playing it. We'll see how it goes, but thought I'd share that one with you. Okay, let's have a look at Lutzen. This is the French order of battle. My attempt is on the right hand side. What's in the scenario book is on the left. So as you can see, I've broken it down a little. 6th line, 10th line into what they are. So it's interesting as to how that comes out. We can see some typos in the Lutzen. The 21st line and 22nd line appear twice. From what I can see, one is correct on the right there, 21st and the 24th, and the 22nd had 4 battalions. Probably all very inexperienced troops too, hence why they're all there as reservists. Everything else is really good. So it's just those couple of minor anomalies, and there's a few throughout the scenario book. They're not showstoppers, but it's probably worth having a bit of a read through prior to publishing to make sure everything aligns. And having written lots of documents over my period, my life, I mean, you can write things, you can read things many times, and you just don't see it. So totally understandable. Unfortunate. That's what it is. As we know, there was problems with the with Klux's brigade in one of in the Dresden scenario. Someone just did a fill down, and we got the Grodno Hussars 3 times, which are probably worth having actually. But I guess you want some Prussian infantry in that scenario. But as you can see, it looks pretty decent. And if you're wondering who Veron and probably Breyer are, I suspect they're colonels because these are actually all one brigade usually. They're pretty sizable, but again, playability to give you some dice on the table. Looking really good. Let's have a look at the other side's order of battle. So look, I don't want to go into every scenario, but I'm going to jump straight into Dresden, which is something that really does appeal to me. And this is where you get some of the variables. For instance, only if the French won the battles of Lutzen and Lutzen. So this is really interesting. And you can see the army on the left is from the booklet. The one on the right is my tinkering. I have changed it slightly because I wanted to know which young guard were actually there. And look, this is by no means 100%. This is my best guess. The only issue I've probably got with this one is I'm not sure about the actual light infantry, the line units. Compadre, I've put Goddard in because he's more of a divisional, I think. Goddard is there, but I've actually switched Goddard up and put Buttrand in. So, and the 8th and 64th line are actually a different division from what I can see. So I've actually put this in as the 27th and the 100th, which were actually in St. Cyr's corps. Mind you, so was the 8th, but it's neither here nor there. I'm probably just clutching at straws, really. But the issue with this one I found is I wasn't quite sure whether the line was actually even present at this particular battle. So because St. Cyr was actually deployed in front of the Grossgarten, and the 3rd and 4th Young Guard divisions were on the French far left. Which, look, as the crow flies, the difference between the Grossgarten and the French far left is about 3.5 kilometres from Grossgarten to Dobritz. So it is substantial in this period to actually get there. So as the French left came through and basically smashed into the Allied right and then forced it in on the centre, I sort of tried to, through the readings I've got here, which is Petrie's and Nefzingers, etc., trying to figure out what actually occurred, because you would imagine that St. Cyr's corps would be totally focused on its front, and obviously the line changed. The interesting part with Dresden for me is that what I think has been missed out here is the weather effects. It rained heavily throughout the battle. So the use of musketry overall would have been severely impacted. And as many historians will state, that this battle was probably fought mostly with artillery, cavalry, and the bayonet. So what would have been nice here, and if you're game enough, and I'm going to implement this when I play it, is I'll have a weather effect for rain, along the lines of what we might say a certain dice roll between the initiative rolls. will be a downpour, no musketry for that turn, whereas the next turn you might get a bit of musketry involved. But you could also sort of add that if it was raining, you would limit the ability for the artillery to engage at long range, because the simple fact is this rain was actually quite heavy and it did affect visibility quite substantially. And look, it could even affect how far a cannonball could probably go. I think if that was included within this particular scenario, it would add a really interesting element to it instead of just playing on a table where everything is fine. Having those weather effects just gives you that extra thing to think about tactically on the battlefield, how you're going to get in there. I mean, because you've got this great young guard brigades here, which are pretty decent veteran and grenadiers, and you're facing off against some Russian Jaegers and some line, etc. So it could get really interesting because it's mostly all about the bayonet. So that is, for me, probably what that one's lacking. And lastly, and I won't actually show this one, but I'm looking at Liebherr-Kauwitz, looks really interesting. I will certainly be playing with the expanded set for that one, particularly with the Polish Guard Regiment or Guard Battalion. That really does appeal to me, being a big fan of the Poles in this period. So that would be really, really good to look at. And there is some Saxons there too. Also a big fan of Saxons for some reason, particularly the cavalry. But my only issue, I guess, going back to Dresden here, I would actually consider removing all the French line and replacing it with Young Guard and just going in with probably the 4th Division. The brigade commander here for the second one, he took command on the last day. And yeah, look, it's a bit of an anomaly. Again, all about playability probably. But look, all the scenarios look really good. I'm going to look forward to playing them all. There was a few, I guess, issues with typos. There are no page numbers in this scenario book, which I found interesting, which was highlighted to me by a friend of mine. When you look at the index and you go page 16, there's a scenario. There's no page numbers to follow through on. And just some of probably the expansion on the unit names would, for me personally, I would have preferred that a little bit more meat with my potatoes, as the saying goes. But overall, a good scenario book. Just probably needed a little more proofreading and for my liking, I think. But look, congrats to the guys. Look forward to playing it. Worth a buy. See you later. I'll probably play some videos when we play these battles out, once I correct my Russians. And we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. Cheers.